Salesa, the Minister for Building and Construction and Ethnic Communities, has fronted up to acknowledge she overspent taxpayer money. Earlier this year, it was revealed Ms Salesa, the 16th ranked minister, had expenses of more than $30,000 in the last 2 months of last year, more than the Prime Minister. Ms Salesa refused to be interviewed then and again refused to be interviewed for a follow-up story on Checkpoint earlier this week, where we reported she used Crown cars to attend sports games and travel to bars. But less than an hour ago, Ms Salesa arrived at Radio New Zealand to tell Zach Fleming her travel was all above board.
I've put systems in place to ensure that taxpayers' money are much better used. I was an absolutely new minister, and you'd see from my travel from the second quarter that I'm now a minister that's average in terms of spends. And so one of the things also that happens is, as number 16 in the cabinet, when Crown cars are booked, if there are other higher ranked ministers that book cars, you do get dropped off, and subcontractor rates or contractor rates are much higher.
Was there an element of frivolous spending as well then? You said that you perhaps didn't use taxpayer money as efficiently as you could have.
I wouldn't call it frivolous. I would say that all of my travel was in my capacity as a minister. And if we could just address the article or the link that you had put out, if we could just go through, say point by point, the things that you pointed out on there, and I could basically give you answers about those travel.
Yeah, I asked you to do that a couple of days ago and a couple of weeks ago as well, and you said no to that. Why did you say no in advance? I mean, we could have had a conversation about the travel that you had. I asked your office for your ministerial diary and your office declined. There was many opportunities for us to be able to double check that travel, and at every opportunity you declined. I'm just wondering why that was.
Hindsight is a wonderful thing, and I should have actually been interviewed. And yes, in terms of OIA information, we collate a lot of data. My staff do, and so one of the processes of government is when a lot of data is asked for, it goes through the OIA process. Now, as I say, I should have been interviewed because all of those things that you pointed out. For instance, the brew kitchen bar incident. Yes, I did go to that brew kitchen, but that was for the Nation recording of the Christmas show, and I was interviewed as Minister of Building and Construction. You said that I went to a gym. I wish I was a gym member. I don't own a gym membership. That was me visiting a provider as Minister of Building and Construction in East Tamaki. I think the other thing you said was that I went to the Wellington Club. I did. In my capacity as Minister of as Minister of Ethnic Communities, there was an event there that was held by the Ambassador of Japan. All of these things I attended because I was representing the government.
Is that including the many rugby games that you went to? You went to Hamilton and back twice for 2 rugby games, and you also went to one in Auckland and then caught a Crown car to an event afterwards and then back home again, and the taxpayer paid for all of that. That was all essential too?
It was all as a representative of government. So I was representing the government. You would know that the Rugby World Cup, the government is one of the major sponsors. Now, I was asked to represent the government for several reasons. I'm the only Tongan-born, Tongan-speaking MP in Parliament today. And we had dignitaries coming from overseas, the Prime Minister of Tonga for 2 games and the King of Tonga for 1 game. You might also recall that there was a lot of tension happening at the time after a teenager unfortunately burnt a Samoan flag. So I was also attending because I actually stepped up and appealed both to Tongans and to Samoans to try and mediate and calm things down.
As you said a few times now, though, you've reined in your spending, right? So there must have been money to be saved. There must have been things that you did wrong before that you've corrected now. So what are those things that you've done? I noticed that just before your expenses came out, you drove yourself to the airport for the first time, and that's something that Andrew Little has done. He drove himself to Taranaki for the oil and gas meeting that he did down there. Are those the kinds of things that you're doing now instead of catching, Crown limos and stuff?
Absolutely. That is actually one of the reasons why I'm now average in terms of spending in the second quarter is I hardly ever use Crown cars now. Either I drive myself, or if I have to go to meetings, especially here in the city, I just use normal taxis.
And that's Zach Fleming there talking to MP Jenny Salesa.